These 5 whiskey investment myths have cost people literally thousands of pounds, and I'm about to tell you about every single one of them so that you don't fall into the same traps. If you've been told that whiskey investment is guaranteed money, or that you can just buy any bottle and watch it grow, or that all cask companies are legitimate, you've been fed dangerous lies. So here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to break down the 5 biggest myths that are costing people money currently in the whiskey investment market. The first of which is what we're going to talk about is the guaranteed returns and that all whiskey goes up. It's a fairy tale. It's the biggest fable within the industry. You have to choose the right cask and you also have to choose the right company and the right brand. Whiskey is a completely unregulated industry. It's not like if you buy stocks and shares, for example, where you have a financial ombudsman to oversee it. None of your money is protected under any compensation scheme, and there have been many incidents of the police or the Serious Fraud Office shutting down multiple whiskey investment schemes over the last few years. Any companies that are promising you guaranteed returns, they're either lying or possibly they're about to disappear with your money. Real whiskey investment is risky, and that's actually a good thing, and this is important for you to understand why. This then brings me on to myth number 2, that all whiskey goes up in value. Whiskey does go up in value as it gets older. You'll never see a bottle of older whiskey on a shelf that costs less than a younger version of it. But there are always peaks and troughs in whiskey investment, particularly with casks, and it's about buying the right cask at the right time from the right parent company, like a Diageo, a Pernod Ricard or a Bacardi. These are billion dollar companies. There are multiple examples of people buying, let's say Macallan's, at the peak of the market when they were £500,000 a cask, which is driven by the rarity of it. And then a few years later, occasionally that drops down to 300,000, 400,000. It all is driven by the rarity, the quality of the product, and of course, have you heard of this distillery? Can you see it on a supermarket shelf? Do you know the parent company? Does it have prevalence? Is it a stock market listed company? Just as some of the examples as the key things to look out for. Now, myth 3 is the certificates of ownership. Anybody at all could give you any certificate off a printer. It's such a dangerous thing for people to say. The only thing that will guarantee you ownership of that cask is something called a delivery order that comes from the main warehouse that holds that cask. These warehouses are regulated by HMRC and have very stringent, strict laws to abide to. Also, should be open for you to pick up the phone and ask, does my cask exist? At Elite, we're very fortunate. We own our own warehouse, so not just are we happy for you to call, we're also incredibly happy for you to come, see your cask, sign your cask, taste your cask, sample your cask, bring your family to see your cask. We are so open with that, whereas a lot of other companies can't offer you that. The 4th myth, that is one of the biggest and most prevalent right now within whiskey investment, is that you can buy your cask cheap and sell it high. It just doesn't happen like that. These are things that are intended for a long-term hold. As I said earlier, whiskey costs more as it gets older. So you have to be buying the right whiskey at the right time. And you've also got to know about that whiskey distillery. You've got to be capable of holding it for 5 to 10 years. 10 years is where you're going to get your ideal profit. Also, if you're buying a younger product, you are looking at an older hold. The older the whiskey that you're buying, i.e. if you're buying a 15-year-old cask or a 20-year-old cask, the less time you have to hold it because it will be hitting key milestones quicker, i.e. it's going to be 25, 30 years old, and therefore it'll be much rarer, and therefore the value will increase because there'll be less of a 30-year-old versus lots and lots of a 5-year-old whiskey or a 10-year-old. The 5th myth is that whiskey is passive income. Whiskey investment is not passive income, it's the opposite. Casks do need to be held, as I've already mentioned, for 10 years at a minimum. Can be 5 years with a really super rare, really expensive one. The longer you hold it, the more expensive the cask gets and the more money you reap from that. Your money is tied up in that cask for years, and of course you have storage fees, insurance, and of course then exit costs with that. This is a generational investment or something that you have the time for it to lay down and generate the money for you. It's not where like you can buy stocks and if the company announces a massive buyout, you can generate the profit from that and sell those stocks 6 months, a year, 2 years later. I'm not trying to put you off whiskey investment. It can be incredibly rewarding. It can be incredibly profitable. All I'm trying to do is highlight some of the pitfalls, some of the jargon you might hear from other companies. If you want to learn how whiskey investment actually works, this is the reality. These are the real strategies you need to employ, the real research you need to put in on top of what you're being told via email or telephone calls or face-to-face meetings. As I've said, can you find what you're being offered on a supermarket shelf? Can you see it on some of the biggest online resellers of whiskey? If you can, they're great signs. Can you then Google it and find out who owns that company? Is it owned by a billion-dollar company? Because if it is, those billion-dollar companies don't own it to not make money. They will be investing millions and millions and millions of pounds into marketing across the next 5 to 10 years into that product to generate profits for their shareholders, and that is where you will be making increased profits above what even you can imagine right now. If you have any further questions, just drop them down in the comments below and we'll get straight back to you.